everybody, it's Christina from Redefine Creative, and I am back with another project for Wild Whisper Designs. And I am talking a little bit today about how I can kind of create a really cool background when I don't have a ton of supplies. So I have this 6x6 Cambray watercolor paper left over. I have this piece of masculine collection pattern paper that has like the black with the mountains. And then I grabbed some of my favorite stamp sets. And I love that I don't need a ton of supplies to be able to create a really cool layout with a fun background. So I'm going to take my photo and I trimmed it to a little bit more narrow than like a 4x6. So I think it's like 3.5. Like I wanted it to be just a little bit more of a rectangle, I guess you could say. And then I cut it into 2-inch strips. So on the 6-inch side of that photo, I cut it into 3 pieces. And I'm going to space it out over this piece of white cardstock. And when I have a photo that doesn't necessarily have like people's faces that I could be possibly cutting in half, I love this technique. So it creates just a little bit of a different look to your picture. And then with a picture like this particular one, it works really well. And it's a fun way to just create a little bit of a different photo effect that's really, really simple. So then I'm going to take this piece of masculine paper and I want to save a little strip of the like mustard and the green branding strip and then the black because I want to use that to create an embellishment cluster. But then I'm going to create a map for my photo. And I'm going to use the part that doesn't have the mountains because the majority of it is going to be covered up with my photo. So because it's just a little photo mat, I don't want to waste, not really waste, but you get what I mean, that really cool detail. Like I'd rather use it where you're going to see that cool detail. So then I'm trying to go through and pick out one of these like textured pattern papers that is going to kind of match that turquoise-ish teal color in the photo and also bring in that really cool outdoorsy texture. So this is a fall kind of camping photo. And it was me kind of getting a chance to relax in the hammock, reading a scrapbooking magazine, like living the life. How fun is that to be able to look through a scrapbook magazine? Like, do you guys remember the days of all the scrapbook magazines? I seriously miss those. Like, there's a ton of inspiration online, and that is really great. But there is something about a scrapbooking magazine that just, I don't know, it's just awesome. Anybody else? Leave me a comment if you guys feel the same way, that like scrapbooking magazines are where it's at. It's just how it is. So this is Scrapbooks and Cards Today, which is one of my favorites. And so I had taken it with me camping. It's just me hanging out in the hammock, being able to get in a little bit of relaxing time, which if you know me, does not happen very often in my particular world. So that's kind of what this layout is going to be talking about. And I wanted to create these layers for my embellishment cluster and behind my photo first. And that's not always how I like build a layout. Usually I start with my background. But because of the way I want to create a bunch of stamping detail, I knew that I needed to know about how big my photo space and my embellishment cluster space were going to be. So I'm starting with the Simon Hurley timber stamp that has these like really cool like birch bark trees. And I want to have those as part of my clusters. And then I'm going to build with some Wild Whisper stamps on top of it. And you could totally do this with the Wild Whisper splotch stamp, the one that looks like rings or like coffee stain type of rings. And that was what I was originally going to do. But for some reason, I just couldn't find that stamp in my stash. So you could totally create this look with that stamp set or with any stamp set really. So I'm just having a little bit of that stamping kind of peek out behind my photo mat, and I want to add some extra up here at the top. I'm using a gray stamp pad so that it's a little bit more subtle, but I want it to kind of look like the forest over there. And then in this Out and About stamp set from Wild Whisper is one of my favorite, like most versatile stamps, which are these little open circles. And I love them. You guys, you can use this stamp set for like everything. I love it. So I'm going to add some of those with this Aquatini ink to get that little pop of this kind of turquoise color that kind of matches the color of the hammock that I'm sitting in. Because I want to bring in that color to the background. Like I don't want my background to be so subtle that it's just gray. So I'm adding in some of that teal color. A lot of it in that bottom corner is going to be hidden with my embellishment cluster, and that is totally fine. And then I'm going to go ahead and put some of these little rings down along where the bottom of my photo mat is going to sit. And so I've got the aquatini color. I'm also going to add in some with the twilight gray down in that bottom. And then I'm going to show you like a really quick tip of how I add some additional texture. So right now, all of this looks really flat. So I'm going to take my same two ink colors, and I'm just using a like blending brush, and I'm adding some of that same exact color over the top of my stamping. And a lot of this isn't going to show, but it is going to add a bunch of dimension. And so if you're stamping on a background and you feel like your stamping is really like, I don't know, kind of flat, this is kind of a way that you can spice it up a little bit and give it a little bit more texture and dimension. So then I'm going to go ahead and take that same gray color and go around the outside edges of my entire layout. And then I'm going to go back to the aquatini and also add in some of that around the edges. And I'm not going to go around the whole thing. I'm just going to pick a few little spots to add some of that aquatini color. And then I'm also going to add a few to color in some of these dots. And see how that's really just adding more and more layers of inking to that stamping in the background, which creates more and more texture and dimension. So then I'm going to go ahead and add some Heidi Swapp Color Shine in black to give me some splatters. And it goes a little bit splatter crazy, but then I can go ahead and start building. So once all that dries, I have my little cluster off here to the left, and I've added a piece of those black circle cut files. And then I'm going to take the other piece that I've cut off and add it underneath my photo mat. So you can see all of this stuff is just kind of peeking out from behind that big photo mat that I've created. So I've made this really kind of fun, different background using just a few scraps of pattern paper and some stamps. So it doesn't take a whole lot of supplies here, guys, and I'm not even going to do a whole ton of embellishing. So I have these open leaf, like leaf outlines, and these are from the Redefine Creative shop, and so I wanted to use a bunch of these in my clusters just because it's outdoors, it's fall, it's camping, you know how it is. So those are going to kind of be my major embellishment kind of areas. So I'm going to have 5 of them clustered up here underneath my photo. And the thing I love about these is they come in a bunch of different sizes, which makes it really easy to kind of cluster them up together. And so once I take my Nuvo glue and I glue those down, I am going to decide that they need a little bit of tinting to them. So I am going to change the color just a little bit. Excuse me, I'm so sorry, guys. All right, so I am grabbing this older alphabet, and this is from Amy Tangerine, and it has this like, they're almost like fabric with faux stitching on them, and so that's what I want to use to create my title. So I'm putting the word relax over the top of my photo, and then I'm going to nestle in be free down here in this embellishment cluster. So as a like whole, my thinking there is that my title is Relax and Be Free, which, you know, doesn't always happen too much in my particular life, which is fine. So it's kind of a big deal when it does. So I really love how those gray alphas mix with my background because I did use that gray ink. There's these little like square pieces that came on these letter stickers that have like little X stitch marks. So I'm kind of adding those to look like little stitch marks, and I'm going to add those in a few different places. And you'll be able to see what those kind of look like better in the close-ups. And at this point I'm thinking, okay, all of it is working really well with the background, but the wood veneer is standing out like a little bit too much to me because it just has that wood color. So the great thing about wood veneer is that you can change it. You can alter it with your favorite mixed media, you can paint it, you can put texture paste, you can do all the things. Something super simple is I'm just going to take my coordinating ink color and my little like ink tool right there, and I'm just rubbing the color across the top. And so it's not going to totally change it. Like, you're still going to know that it's wood veneer, but it's going to give it a much more toned down color. that's totally going to match with the feel of the layout. And it really makes those turquoise, like teal colored accents pop. So I really like how toning that down a little bit kind of helped bring out some of the other colors that are going on in the layout, because this is a pretty like monochromatic outdoorsy layout. There isn't a ton of color. So adding those little pops of teal is really going to kind of shine. And I'm just going to finish it off by adding a few little sequins to each of my clusters here, as well as one up here around my title. But that's basically going to do it. So I'm going to keep the embellishing pretty simple because I want all of that kind of peeking out stamping to show through. I really love that look of tinting the wood veneer to kind of match everything that's going on. And that's going to do it for this layout. So hopefully you will grab your stamps and a few scraps of pattern paper and create a background of your own. Bye, everybody.